Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Only a Bag, the guide to Italian travel. I'm Darcy Melton.
And I'm Nathaniel Mellor. Thank you all so much for coming back for a listen or for tuning in for the first time. Or not tuning in, but, push and play for the first time. We really appreciate it. We're very stoked to be here on this absolutely blistering Tuesday morning. And It's actually firmly 2:00 in the afternoon. So we have done a couple of takes of this. So thank you all for being here on this, Wednesday morning for our dear listeners.
Mm-hmm. Or whenever you're listening to this.
Good point.
In real time, it's pretty toasty here on a Tuesday afternoon.
And we have to turn off the fan for recording so it doesn't have this constant in the background. That's a fan noise, not me clearing my throat.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you all who's leaving. Thank you all to everyone. What? Thank you to everyone who's leaving reviews. Figured it out. And who has left reviews. We really, really appreciate it. There was one the other day that I called Darcy into the room to cheer about. So we feel really, really excited when people leave reviews. And no, it helps us out, but also it makes it just feel really it makes us feel like what we're delivering is helpful. Like the kind of information we have is helpful and people are finding it useful, which is kind of the point of all this, is just trying to, help people plan their trip, help people understand what to do and when to do it and where to do and what to avoid and what not to avoid, I guess. So I think we both really appreciate it, not to speak for you.
No, yeah, absolutely. It makes me so happy whenever I see that people are following us and leaving reviews and are happy that we're, doing what we're doing. And it just makes me happy to get good news,
Yeah.
So thank you to everybody. Thank you for all the follows. Thank you for recommending us to friends.
That's huge. Yeah.
It's really amazing. Thank you so
word of
much.
Mouth. Killing it. Thank you. And if you'd like to follow us, if you haven't already, if this is your first time listening and you're like, whoa, following, that sounds awesome. I don't know, maybe. You can do that. We have an Instagram, only_a_bag. We have a website, onlyabag.com. You can't really follow us there, but you can sign up for the newsletter, and we're going to hopefully plan on doing some fun things with the newsletter in the future. And then I think that's pretty much it. You can also, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, you can reach out to us on onlyabagofficial@gmail.com. None of these have the same name, as you might notice. We have like 3 various names on 3 various platforms, but
we should probably fix that.
Yeah, we should probably just...
So onlyabag.com. You can read articles there that we've written. If you prefer to get information in the written form, you can contact us there if you want. If you have any questions, if you want us to talk about anything specific, you can also email us at onlyabagofficial@gmail.com. And like Nathaniel said, you can find us on Instagram at only_a_bag.
Yeah. So with that all being said, Darcy, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about Ferragosto.
AKA, and this will probably be the title of this podcast, is why August is either the best time or worst time to come to Italy.
Yeah.
Might make it less wordy. It might be like, is August the worst time? I don't know. It has to be one of those clickbaity, like algorithm-loving titles.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Like I think before in the past, we just did like very straightforward titles, and it was sort of, I don't know, it feels like it wasn't as interesting to the all-consuming algorithm. So you have to be more of like, is August worth it in Italy? Who knows? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's where basically this episode is going to be on, because it's still in July, technically, by 2 more days. We didn't want to do another food month because we pretty much talked everything about, we've talked not all about food, obviously, but we
could go on and on about food.
That's the issue.
I think we should move on to other matters, I guess.
That's what we were thinking. The things that might also, even though the sort of summer season is winding down, and more than likely, if you're coming to Italy, you've probably already made your plans, like your lodging choices, your transportation choices, things like that. We thought it might be important to go ahead and warn anybody coming in August why August might not be an amazing month. Excuse me. And then in August, we're going to be talking about hotels, Airbnbs, lodging, the star system for hotels, everything to kind of be aware of before booking something, basically. I think that's a fair way to put it. Fantastic. So, Ferragosto.
Okay. So, Ferragosto. Let's talk about the practicalities, and then we'll get into the history, which is, a big old rabbit hole that we're going to go down.
Darcy has done a deep dive on the history. Darcy has been slowly but subtly pushing this podcast into a historical direction, hoping that we do more with these deep dives, as you could tell from our lovely episode on cocktails, where Darcy regaled us on the history of Campari and Aperol.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is.
I only tell you the fun parts, not the dates. The dates are in there, but dates.
I was like, not the tragic parts of history.
Yeah. Well, yeah. maybe a little bit of tragic things. But anyway, so
Just keep it fun.
practicalities of Ferragosto. So it is on August 15th, which is also the Assumption of Mary. We'll get into
Very
that.
cool.
I know. That's a little tidbit. That's a taster of the history you're going to hear later. So it's on August 15th, but it's not just one day. It's semi-officially about 2 weeks. And it can be even the whole month of August. And what it is, it's just a big old holiday that people take. So a lot of businesses will be closed for Ferragosto, which could possibly just be like a long weekend, but really it's probably going to be about 2 weeks. And what that means for you when you're coming is that, especially if you're in a big city, a lot of like the pastry shops, the cafes, even some grocery stores,
Restaurants.
even pharmacies potentially,
For sure.
will be closed. So where does everybody go? Great question. Italians, they go to the sea, to lakes, to rivers, to mountainside towns.
On vacation to other countries sometimes. I mean, like but typically near bodies of water.
A lot of it is for getting out of the heat, essentially,
Yes, yeah.
and having fun. So we live in a small little mountaintop town, and a lot of people come back here during Ferragosto and the whole month of August to family homes, and we are within like a 45-minute drive, 30-minute drive to the beach. So a lot of people will come here, take day trips to the beach during that time. So
it gets down to like 65 to 70 at night. So you can go to the beach during the day, you come back in the night, and it's nice and cool, rather than the city where it might be like 75, even 80. In Rome, there's a few nights rather that were 80 at night, and that was really...
It's brutal.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, with no AC, I didn't realize, in Savannah where we grew up, there's plenty of nights that are, 80 or above, but they're not like you have AC. You don't notice, it's like, oh, I didn't think it was that much of a deal, but oh my God, that was really brutal last year. And then very quickly though, I wanted to kind of go back to those practicalities for anybody listening who might be like, oh my God, I just heard that, like, you're telling me Rome is closed. So yeah, retouching on what you mentioned, these are going to be broad generalizations for anybody listening, so don't get too worried just yet.
You will be able to survive. The entire city doesn't shut down.
True.
Yes, please keep going.
Yes, that's a really good point. That's a good addendum.
Addendum, good
I know,
word.
Right? SAT word. There we go. I was like one of those words on Scrabble to get me like 15 points. I have no idea how the scoring system in Scrabble works. That could be a bigger than 15-point word.
People are going to be grumpy with you
I know.
for assigning up points to that word. Okay.
I guess it depends if I get the double word score right. No, so essentially outside of the touristy areas is where it's more noticeable. In the sense that, like, not the Colosseum, not the Forum.
Like major tourist sites will remain open.
And a lot of that is because, for a variety of reasons, but money, let's be honest. We still get tourists in August. But a little bit outside that, even in Rome, but if you go just a little outside of like Piazza del Popolo into like that Flaminio area, for instance, or the Farnesina area, which is like near Ponte Milvio, things are closed. Like, it is just a lot of restaurants are closed. As you mentioned, cafes tend to be closed. One or two might be open to kind of still be, making the money from people who stayed in Rome. Pharmacies tend to be closed, pastry shops, bakeries, pretty much everything. And then this also includes, for anybody, I don't think this would include almost any of our listeners, but just in case, pretty much by and large, the government shuts down for those 2 to 4 weeks as well. So if you need anything that is like, if you're listening to this and you're a digital nomad and you're trying to get a visa put through, it is not going to happen in August. If you have any sort of like, even, I guess actually no, this would probably include our listeners, but if you came here and like were unfortunately pickpocketed or lost a passport or something like that, nothing is happening in August. So like to get paperwork that says you've lost your passport, you lost your thing, you could still fly back, is a nightmare and a half.
Police stations and things, there are still police.
There are still police.
Yeah, it's not an entire free-for-all. It's just the paperwork side of it.
But it's like whoever they have to send the police to. Yeah,
Right.
the consulates are closed, things like that. For us, I know that for us, we can't, Darcy has to go through the immigration office to get a visa to be here. That's completely closed for almost all of August. Even worse, that like it kind of, there's that attitude, you mentioned in one of our previous takes, I think, that it's kind of like Christmas, is it maybe not, but basically Ferragosto is kind of like Christmassy feel in the sense that like we're about to get off of work soon. So even at the end of July, things start like ratcheting down and people get a little bit like, I'm going to get the heck out of here in about a week. So all that being said is if you're coming to Italy and you're coming to Florence, you're coming to Milan, Torino, Rome, Bologna, anything what you might think of as one of Italy's major cities, you might find it to be very quiet. Even though I will also add though, the tourist sites will not be closed. I don't think they ever close even for Ferragosto, for maybe for Christmas. Some of them close.
Yeah, they close for Christmas, and I think New Year's Day often.
Okay.
So the 25th and the 1st, things will be closed.
And they may be closed on the day of the 15th, but I kind of doubt it, to be honest. Like it's still, the Colosseum, for instance, will not be closed. The Forum, the Pantheon, actually, I didn't know because Pantheon now charges, so I don't know if they changed their hours ever since they started charging €5. But I'm thinking like Florence and stuff, like the Duomo and what else people to go to Florence to see? Who knows? I'm kidding. Sorry. But no, that is all being said is the touristed sites will still be open. This also means, though, for anybody listening who is coming to Italy but only going to spend like a day or two in Rome, but instead go to a smaller town like the Amalfi Coast or Cinque Terre, or I guess just really any small beach town, is you're going to have the opposite experience. You're going to have, tons of people. It's going to be slammed. It's some good things and bad things. We've spent some time in a seaside town near August, and it was like really interesting. It's almost a joke that nobody sleeps, I think, in August.
Okay, Italians, our experience in small town Italy, especially in the summer, is that people stay up like all night. Not the entire town, but a lot of the town. There are some nights where it's just like there's a raging party happening, kind of all night. And it's not just like, air quotes, the young people. Like it is everybody. Grandmas are out hanging out outside, chatting because it's cooler at night. People of all ages are partying up in the piazzas and things for, all hours of the night. In hilltop towns and certainly in seaside places, like people are just up
and I think
all the time.
Not even you mentioned hilltop towns, and that's for sure. But I was thinking even we've lived in the hilltop town, mountaintop town. I think it's like a hill. It's a glorified mountain.
That's a pretty big hill.
It's a pretty big hill.
Pretty small mountain.
It's basically above a valley, and in the valley it doesn't get nearly as cool. It's just because it's humid and all the hot air seemingly does not rise out of this valley, so it just becomes a very hot and humid little valley. And as I say, there's a couple towns there that, easily into 4 a.m, bars and stuff will be open because people are still waiting for it to cool down to go to sleep. So yeah, that's a good point. It's like things do not, all of August, it's just noise, which is not like, again, this is not a warning of do not come. It's like,
it's just a be prepared.
Be prepared. If you're expecting, I want to spend a week near a very quiet, sleepy town. I only say this because as Darcy mentioned a couple episodes ago, I've been kind of commenting back on people on Italy Travel subreddit on Reddit. And a lot of people do seem to have the desire to come to a small town somewhere on the coast, whether it's in Puglia, whether it's Amalfi Coast, Cinque Terre.
For a relaxing stay?
Well, just like they want to be around the beach for a week.
Okay.
And they want it to be relaxed. Like, it doesn't have to be quiet, but like not slammed with people. And it's one of the things I do try to help people be like, if you're going to go, June's a good time.
Yeah.
It's not
August
a holiday.
Is not relax at the beach. August is party at the beach.
Yes, August is very much party at the beach. Sorry, you were going to say?
I was just going to say that, so like to sum up what you're saying is
sure.
At the beach in August, things get crazy. All the Italians are at the beaches partying. In the big cities, there's certainly going to be a lot of tourists. But if you're in a big city like Florence or Rome, you might be noticing a lot more English, which is often the
language.
Yes.
Not the people.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. Just making sure.
You might be hearing a lot more English language because that is often the language of a lot of tourists, or a language that people can share. So there might be a lot fewer Italians in the big cities. And a lot more Italians at the beach.
Yes, I think it's a pretty very way to put it up. And that's all to say is if you, the reason it's also could be a really good time to come to Italy is because one, as mentioned, the big cities are quite empty. So it could feel a little less just claustrophobic if you're somebody who doesn't. Looking at you, Darcy, I know you don't like crowds,
Although I don't know because if you're going to the tourist sites, they are still crowded because people are still.
They are. That's a great point. I was also thinking though.
A lot of people have gone back to school.
Yeah, a lot of American families have gone back to school, so that kind of does drop a lot of natural like tourists basically. And so the only people left are people who, because I mean, I think like years ago, August used to be kind of like a shoulder season, not for Italy, just like in general, because I know for America, it was like June, July was the peak travel summers. And it was like, oh, August could be a nice shoulder season. Now I think like September, October is Rome, like Italy's shoulder season. But all that being said is it might be slightly fewer tourists, hard to tell. And honestly, for at least the next, what are we talking about here? I don't know, at least 12 to 18 months, basically. It's going to be quite, Rome specifically is just going to be slammed. It's
the Jubilee.
Yeah, the Jubilee is next year. I think, I have it in my head, though, it's in December. Is that accurate?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I think the biggest part is in December, but it kind of takes place all year.
Pretty much the whole year.
Yeah.
And so if you're coming this year, and if you haven't left yet either, by the way, you will notice that Rome is, I wouldn't say covered, but I would definitely say it is, some of the sites are so hard to see. They've sort of, there's scaffolding around a lot of things. There's a lot of, because they're updating, like I think.
Rome has procrastinated, let's be honest. Rome procrastinated on getting ready for the Jubilee.
Yes.
And now the city's a bit hectic. Like there is construction.
Rome's doing their homework the night before.
Yeah, Rome's doing their homework. Yeah. They're studying for the night before the test.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's scaffolding around a lot of the major sites, and like fountains, things that, exactly. The fountains and the statues and things that need to be slightly renovated.
A lot of road closures as well, because they're still putting in, for the last 25 years, they've been putting in the Metro Line C, and it happens to be it's supposed to be kind of a more of a, where it starts is more for Romans, for lack of a better word, but I think they're trying to put it through more touristy sites to get it like, just because the A and B line aren't that useful when you're going to go to see certain things. But of course, this means you're going through thousands of years of history, so they have to stop all the time to like excavate and properly catalog. And I know they're trying to get a stop before the Altar of the Fatherland, which is kind of down the street from the Colosseum. They're trying to get a stop there put in before the Jubilee. This also means where they're raising the prices for the metro ticket, I think from $150 to $2.
Oh, wow.
I think by next year, it's supposed to be the end of, I mean, for anybody who has a metro tickets or metro card from any year prior to 2025, you can still use it as long as it's valid. I don't think the metro tickets expire.
They do not.
Yeah, so somebody told you that, or the guy selling them told you that. So if you have one that says $150, you can still use it. It's just they will start charging $2 for them.
That's a hot tip. We should get some metro cards, save some money.
Right? You could just start hawking them on the street for like $1.60 or €1.60. Okay. Make 10 cents a card.
I was not thinking of that. But
scalping metro tickets?
I wasn't thinking of scalping. I was just thinking of saving money for ourselves. It's
That's
a fun little cheeky way.
That'd be really fun. Actually, but they're not raising the monthly tickets. So we're...
oh, right. Okay,
yeah,
so that's fine. Interesting.
Yeah. And of course, this is the kind of stuff that I think I mentioned at the beginning of the newsletter. This is the kind of stuff we were thinking about putting together in a newsletter. Very short blurb bullet points of, if you're going to Rome in 2025, here's what to be careful of. And just kind of toss that up in a letter. So anybody planning their trip, like my brother who's planning his trip for next year, has no interest in seeing the Jubilee, but he's going to Rome. He wants to go to Rome next year.
Oof.
I know. And so I'm trying to be like, okay, well, here's some things to be aware of. So all that being said is, I wanted to mention for anybody who is coming to big cities, some big cities will be under renovation, not just, even though the Jubilee is only in the Vatican and in Rome, other cities are still expecting a surge in tourism, because if you're coming all the way to Italy for the Jubilee, you might as well go see Florence or Bologna or, Pisa. Like you might as well. So a lot of other cities are having a little bit of a renovation happening.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be it might be a little difficult between now and the end of 2025 to see certain things. But yes, August, all this was really to say, this 9-minute detour was all to say that August could be a great time to see places, because it is empty of Italians. It's also much more relaxed. Like even in Rome, even in Florence, even in Bologna, it's just way more like laid back. People are just way more chill. And even in the seaside towns, people are chill. There's just that spirit of like...
It's festive spirit.
It's just a festive, relaxed, it's a holiday. There is no stress. There's nothing wrong. We are just here to have fun. And not like have fun like... I think we both mentioned this, like partying and stuff. It's not like drunk on the street Miami Beach on the summer partying. It's more like... I I don't know. I think the parties here are typically around festivals, and in the summer there's a ton of festivals. So especially leading up to the Assumption of Mary, the 15th, the Ferragosto, there will be like probably nightly fireworks, and there'll be processions, and there'll be parades, and there'll be things like that are all to kind of commemorate the one event. And again, in Rome, you might not see that as much as you would in a small town where you can't really avoid the procession and the fireworks and
Right.
the hullabaloo, as you would say.
And I think we should clarify, we've done so many takes of this episode, that when we say things are closed in big cities like pharmacies, grocery stores, cafes, things that are necessities like pharmacies and grocery stores, there are often several in one neighborhood.
Yes.
And they will swap vacation times. So one grocery store might be open for a week and then close, and the next grocery store a couple blocks away will, change with them. So essentially, there will always be a grocery store and a pharmacy near you, very likely that it's open, and another one will take their vacation. I
think we've mentioned this before. I mean, it's slightly related. Like in Christmas, there's always like one bar open Christmas morning and then one open Christmas evening. It's just a way of like, everyone gets something. And one last thing to mention this before Darcy gives us a beautiful and regaling history, I hope, I'm looking forward to it, is that transportation. That is something to be aware of if you are transporting yourself around a city or between two cities. Transportation will still run both in a city and between two cities. However, typically a reduced schedule, which just means maybe fewer trains a day, or maybe they cut like the early morning, the late night ones. They often cut things that are designed for workers. So there are people, for instance, who go from Rome to Milan. So they have to leave early in the morning and come back later in the evening once like the business meeting is over or whatever you're going to Milan for.
Were you just doing business hands?
Yeah, like, I don't know. You
guys couldn't see. He was doing like a robotic.
Like business. We're here doing business, guys. I don't know what people say in a courtroom. That's obviously not our business happens in a boardroom. As you can tell, I have not had a job at a business ever. So yes, no, there might cut things like that. Smaller towns will possibly cut some of their bus, because a lot of small towns, like where we live, only have a bus into the town. There's no train. So they might cut some of those. And then in a city like Rome, they might run fewer buses. They might run slightly fewer metros, like in the sense of, I think Rome's metro is like once every 2 minutes. It might be once every 4 minutes. The bus usually the bus is like once every 10 minutes as a bus, 7 minutes as a bus. It might be once every 15 minutes as a bus. Not a big deal either way. Transportation will continue to run. There have been times, and this is something else we wanted to put on the podcast, sometimes, I think like Siena, for instance, between Empoli and Siena, there will be no train running for like a week after Ferragosto, and it's buses only. And they'll transport you the buses, no big deal. It's super easy.
They make accommodations.
Okay. And I wanted to put that in like a little newsletter, so let people know. Just again, something to let people know this type of stuff is happening, and because how else are you going to find out that there's no train to Siena? And the reason they're doing it is because they're fixing the tracks, and it's a good time to do it. Nobody's traveling. Everyone's already where they're going to be. So it tends to be a good time to do like track repair, road work repair. In a city like in Rome, it's just every year they do tram repair. So that's just something to be kind of aware of, is that you might be coming into a time where it's a lot of infrastructure fixing going on, as well as reduced workers working. And besides that, though, I mean, it really is a very chill time to come. If you're looking for like the most relaxed, the most Italian, quote unquote, vibe you can find, I mean, I think August is probably a way to go.
You think it's the most Italian time, even in a big city, even though all the Italians are gone?
Maybe not it's hard because it's like, well, I think it's just more relaxed. Because I think a lot of the time of the year people are at work. So it's a little bit more like, a little fast paced, I guess, a little bit. Yeah. But I think every time when August rolls around when we're house sitting, it was just immediately like somebody kind of hit that like slow-mo button, and it was just everybody was there was a few people out walking around. Everybody was like, even like the bartenders all willing to have a chat rather than like just kind of constantly saying coffees. I see
what you're saying, yeah.
It's almost like we got that bit of that small town feel out of Rome that we never really got before. But it's kind of like there's a little sense of camaraderie. Like I think we, as we mentioned in every episode, and probably this one twice, we come from Savannah, and it's kind of like everyone would leave during a hurricane. But everyone who stays
There's a bit of that camaraderie.
Yeah, like,
I
oh,
see
you're
what
here
you
too.
mean.
And I think like Rome has that, and Perugia had that, where it was like, oh, you guys are here? Nice. All right. And it was just like this instant little like, we have something in common. We didn't, go to the sea. That being said, at the sea, it's I think a different kind of camaraderie. It's just like we're all having a blast.
We're all here together doing it.
Yeah, exactly. We're all swimming. So I mean that it's Italian in the sense of it's just very like just very relaxed. Even here we are. There's a festival every night, and it's kind of like you start seeing the same people, and it's like I know there's that camaraderie there. Just like, hey, it's you again, and everyone gets jokey. That's the thing. Like
they do. Everybody gets silly.
Everyone gets silly. Yeah, which is lovely around festival season. It's like everyone kind of forgets they're stressed out, and everyone just gets a little silly and a little bit, there's just something in the air, and you're just like, oh, I really like this. I really want to be here. And I think that's like August is a good time for that personally.
Yeah, totally.
Not around Christmas. There's silliness around Christmas.
Not where we are. No.
Yeah.
I think maybe in the north there's more festive vibes for Christmas.
We are hunting, by the way, dear listeners. If you know the place, let us know. We are hunting for a good Christmas place in Italy because we've been here for 8 Christmases, I think, 9 Christmases. Even before living here, we would visit when my mom lived here for Christmas. And it is just the most depressing Christmas place. There's no Christmas trees. There's barely any Christmas lights. Almost no one says Merry Christmas. I mean,
it's a very somber spirit here in the South. Yeah. At least in the small towns we've been in for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as like,
but
hey,
not
Merry
Ferragosto.
Christmas. Yeah. Ferragosto is like,
they're
oh my
so
God.
excited about the Assumption of Mary and getting vacation off.
Yeah.
They're like, woo, happy times.
Which brings us to, Darcy, what is the history of Ferragosto?
Well, Nathaniel, I think maybe we should split this, in fact, into 2 episodes.
Darcy, why would you lie to our viewers like that and say this is all going to be 1 episode?
Well, that's because I
mean, listeners,
always forget.
They can't see us.
I always forget how long-winded we are. And I think that we should split this into 2 so it's not overwhelming. Practical episode and then historical episode.
I love it. No, let's do that. And then our dear, beautiful listeners will have another 2 podcast episodes to enjoy today, tomorrow, whenever you're listening, today, because it's always going to be today for the people listening. Then 1. Instead of 1 hour and a half long one where you're just like, oh my God, they're still going on. So yeah, we'll still be here. We're gonna just end this and come right back.
Yes. But if you have any questions, so I think we've covered all the practicalities and warned you guys hopefully sufficiently about what Ferragosto means to you and your trip here. If you have any questions, if you're freaking out and you're like, everything's going to be closed.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that you guys talk like that. That's just my accent.
Kermit might be listening.
Oh, that was a good Kermit. Thank you. Okay, so if you're freaking out, please, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at onlyabagofficial@gmail.com, on onlyabag.com.
Yeah, you can just send a little message.
Yeah, and on Instagram at only_a_bag.
You can also, if you are listening to this on Spotify, they have recently not allowed, but they've recently introduced comments. So you can now comment on it. So if you have any questions, if you're on Spotify, or if you're listening on Apple, but you also have a Spotify account, you should go to Spotify. Because I think if you leave something on Apple, it doesn't come up as a comment on, which is a bit of a bummer, because I realize like all these the reviews, I want to respond to them and say thank you so much.
I know, and I like Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, and I can't respond to any reviews. So that's why we do this little thing at the beginning, by the way, for like, oh, you guys keep thanking us for reviews. It's because we cannot write out a little thank you note. So we just want to say it live on air. But yes, if you have any comments or questions at all like that, and you're just like, oh my God, I need to know this, you can absolutely just leave a comment and we'll get back to you as soon as we see it, probably. Because we understand that it could be a bit of a stressful situation. But yeah, this was Ferragosto, the best time or worst time to visit Italy. Again, we'll go figure out the podcast title after I always figure them out as it's like uploading. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good title. So we don't sit down with this in our heads, which we probably should. Okay, so we'll be back momentarily in the next episode to talk to you about the history of Ferragosto. And thank you all so much for listening to this one. We really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for listening.